Hey everyone, Tactics here, bringing you guys another plus 20 dungeon video, this time for Spires of Ascension. Just like with my other high key videos, I'll be going through this dungeon from the perspective of a Guardian Druid, showing you guys my thought process and why different pulls went good or bad, looking at what I can personally improve on, and also giving you guys some tips and tricks for high keys. Remember, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like and subscribe for more content like it, and let's just get this started. Remember, we are doing this at a 1.25 times speed just to make this video a little bit shorter. But anyways, we start off right at the beginning of the dungeon with a very big pull. It is quite dangerous. There's a ton of kicks that need to be grabbed in this pull, from getting as many Dark Lash kicks as possible to making sure that Rebellious Fist is never going off. And on top of this, the Castigators also have mandatory kicks in Burden of Knowledge, and then there's also the heal from the Mender in here somewhere. So this is a very dangerous pull. You see, we're committing a lot to this, right? We're bloodlusting this. Obviously, there's all DPS cooldowns going out. We have barrier coming out. Just everything we need to survive, and people are almost dying. We are managing to keep this together. There. And this is also sanguine, so we're going to do a little bit of kiting here, I believe. What you have to be very careful of is that this happens right there. It didn't quite knock back everything fast enough, and so the mob died just before the knockback went off, and the Goliath ended up channeling. The other thing you can do is just be constantly kiting that pack, but you still could run into that problem. I tried to time it there and mistimed a little bit, so basically I just need to get that Typhoon off like a half second earlier, and we would have avoided this big sanguine. But because of that sanguine, we end up just pulling this Goliath into the next pack, just because we might as well. There's much less kicks in this pack. There's just the one Castigator and the Mender. I do actually think we end up screwing up our kicks here. Yeah, I think we end up committing too many kicks to the other mobs, and we actually let a fist go off, which is not good. Yeah, so avoiding getting the sanguine on the Goliath here, very important. Yeah, we double committed to that Burden of Knowledge, I think, and then this Castigator Fist is gonna go off, and so we call it, and we all commit defensives to that, and we all barely survive. Yeah, definitely not a good thing. A little miscommunication there on the kicks, but we end up living for it barely. We had to make a quick call on defensives, but we do barely survive that. Not ideal at all. Would definitely recommend, one, not having that Goliath stuck in sanguine for a ridiculous amount of time, but also never missing a kick. Yeah, because we all would have died if we didn't all commit defensives there. This pull is fairly straightforward. We do, I believe, just CC the Mender off the bat, just because we want to make sure we get every Castigator kick, and then we pull the Mender in with the later in the pull, then deal with it during the Pride, just because there's really not much going on during the Pride for the tank damage, and the Mender doesn't really add much to it, so not a big deal there. And this pull is much safer than the first intro pull, so not nearly as exciting. Yeah, so we pull the Mender in now. We just use stops to deal with the channel. Not a big deal. Again, just doubly making sure that there's no sanguine on that Goliath, because that is painful when that happens. And we'll finish off this Goliath, and then we'll move into the Pride. And this Pride, I believe we're committing Warrior cooldowns and Adrenaline Rush. Yeah, because Combust is not around yet. I don't know if he throws the Combust right in. He might be holding Combust for boss here. Yeah, Pride scaling is definitely a little crazy though. Even just from going like 20 to 21 to 22, like Pride scaling gets pretty out of control to the point where you need to like commit cooldowns to every single Pride 100% or you're just gonna die. Even this one we got close. Yeah, we had the Priest die there. We could just get the battle rest so we don't waste Pride timing. I think that was definitely the right play. Even though you'll see here, bad things tend to happen. Yeah, so I see the losing threat right there. I didn't actually notice that I lost threat mid-run. Yeah, it was mid-run I lost threat. Obviously, the solution to that is just me taunting while we're running. But yeah, in the moment, I actually didn't notice that I had lost threat because it was during the run, and the boss just slightly deviated off course away from me and hit the mage. And now, of course, we don't have the battle risk because the priest died. And so obviously, like, the preference there is just to try and make sure we don't get our priest killed during the pride, so we have the battle risk still. And then, I mean, obviously that death in fight is also completely avoidable if I make sure I taunt when I have the low threat. It's just a little bit of an odd timing of a threat loss, which is unfortunate. Yeah, this fight gets a little bit extended because of that, though. Not too much to talk about there, though. This boss fight is fairly straightforward. Just have some sort of mitigation up for the spear slams and don't get hit by orbs. We can move forward to after the fight, though. It does last quite a long time. We lost a chunk of time. And then we just pull all of the stealth claws to the right of the boss. Yeah, this was an incarn pull, so it's not super dangerous for me. I probably should be closer here. I should be thrashing, yeah, like this. I should be doing this. Because they're pretty much permaslowed by the flame strikes going out. And so there's no reason for me to not be a little bit closer to get some extra thrash damage there. I believe we screw up this pull because it is at this point I realized that I do not have Ursul's Vortex. Normally we would Ursul's Vortex this pull to make it super easy. So instead we do the LOS thing and they get a little bit screwy. Now they will always jump directly behind them, and yeah, I didn't have quite enough time to reposition them because they had their thing basically queued up for when we entered combat. And these guys just decided to stay up there and keep fighting people. So this pull goes a little bit not to plan. Definitely ideal to line all their backs up in the same direction because they don't move very well. As you can see, they're very finicky with their move. You don't want them to hurl because hurl will do random damage, and if the tank is in melee, it'll always hit the tank, right? So you want to try and be in melee as the tank all the time, but obviously they don't move very well, right? Look at these guys trying to move, and then their dashes, they will always dash straight where their back is facing. And so like this was one of the first times we've done this specific pull, just because we pretty much always just deal with them with Ursuls where they're standing. And so definitely misplayed this one a little bit. Yeah, when the first one jumped, I should have just let them all jump up the stairs so they would still be stacked. And then it would have been much easier to deal with. But yeah, that took a little bit more time than we intended. Now, an important thing to note, you see the lust timer? So you need to actually let this lust rip within like, I want to say within like 30 seconds of it coming off cooldown. And that is because you can squeeze in a lust in this, an extra lust in this dungeon. And so we let the lust rip for this pride, I believe, yeah. Because it will come just back up for when we need it before the second boss if we lust immediately coming off cooldown. So obviously there's not too much to talk about cooldown wise here. We lusted it. It's not going to be much of a problem at all. And then we go into the next pack with Pride and some CDs to deal with this squad leader who's a bit annoying. I think a problem here is I should have incarned immediately when it came off cooldown, because at this point it's too late for me to incarn again, because I need to save incarn for not the big Ether Diver pack on the next platform, but the pack after that I need incarn for. So at this point I just have to hold incarn for like 2 minutes, which feels bad, but a little misplay there. I could have gotten 1 extra incarn off. And again, skirmishers, again, just try and position their back, especially on Sanguine Week, so they're not going to jump into like Sanguine. If you position them near this wall, they'll just like jump back into the wall and not move very much. It's fairly easy to make this jump too. I probably could have made it just in stag form, but It's only a couple second time gain if everyone does it. It's more of a time gain on like Spiteful weeks, but on like Sanguine Quaking, it's not too big a deal. It's dealing with these Ether divers rather. I'm trying to hold cooldowns here, so this pack can get a little dangerous because I am really trying to hold for the next pack. I probably should have just committed a Bark Skin earlier on here just to not have this little thing happen with my health bar, because it does get a little bit sketchy. I should have committed Bark Skin maybe like 6 seconds earlier. But we deal with these Ether Divers okay, and then we pop cooldowns on this pack because it's very scary. So as a tank here, one, there's obviously the frontal cone. You have to make sure you're not aiming at DPS, but also just in general, you have to stay with the skirmisher, right? Because the skirmisher, and that there, I walked through the skirmisher. That was definitely a misplay. I should have positioned the skirmisher so his back was to this wall, and then he wouldn't have jumped very much at all like he was originally. But just right at the last second, I took a step too far, and the skirmisher turned around and jumped to the opposite direction, which is not something you want. We end up dealing with it just fine. I have to run all the way over here to the skirmisher so he doesn't start random attacking. But it's just, it could have been avoided by keeping him positioned like this. Exactly like he is right now. He just jumps back into this wall and doesn't move very much at all. So that's what exactly I should have done for that first pack. I think I was trying to do that, but I just took a step too close and he turned. And again, they're very finicky. They don't really want to move very much, so it's a little hard to get them out of Sanguine, which is unfortunate. Yeah, but we end up dealing with this pretty okay. We committed a lot of cooldowns to it to make sure it went smoothly, so. And we pick up some cats here somewhere. Oh yeah, he just ice blocks to pull him out of stealth. And I believe it's the next pull where we get our Pride, and we try and AoE it all down together. Yeah, I think yeah, it's probably a similar situation. I am staying fairly close to these ones at least, and I'm able to get some thrashes off. But I probably, while kiting, could get some more damage off than I'm doing right now. Especially because I'm Boomkin specialization, so you get the extra thrash and swipe range and stuff, so you can actually do that from a decent distance. Also, wait, what is that cat doing? You're just a cat? That's... Oh, what is this? What is this? I have no idea. But we do these stealth claws and praetors, so it's very close to Pride, so we actually AoE them together. Because you see, the first thing that'll die here will trigger our Pride. So we AoE these guys down together as best we can. I think at some point, yeah, we just pull them out of the Praetor. We let the Praetor stay up there because the Praetor's getting very low. And we just AoE these Stealth Claws down. Is another pull I commit Incarn to. It comes up like, I think 10 seconds, maybe 15 seconds into the pull initially. And I just kite a little bit more to make sure I drop my bleed stacks fully. And we get it all down just before the Pride spawns. Exactly. That was super clean, actually. That was very, very good. We are in a bit of an awkward position, right? Doing Pride half on stairs, half not on stairs is just a bit weird. So, ideally, try not to do this, but it's not the biggest deal. We take this Pride, I believe we get the, yeah, so the squad leader is padding, so we actually do it on the squad leader. Again, it's not like a scary pull, it's just the squad leader pulls are just a little long. Just because of the damage reduction. So we do try and shorten their time by kind of nuking the squad leader down, and I'm not sure, I don't remember if we chain this after the squad leader dies. If we don't, we probably should have. Yeah, it doesn't look like we do. We definitely should have chained it after the squad leader died, but oh well. deal with this Goliath, and that'll set us up. And you can see Lust is still 3 minutes off cooldown. So I believe after this pack, it starts to be very close to being off cooldown because it's almost exactly when we need it. So like you can't really hold that Bloodlust very long. You need to let it rip very, very quickly upon it getting off cooldown. Otherwise, if you forget, don't use it. You will just want to save it because at that point, you're not going to fit in the extra Lust. So you might as well save it for exactly when you need it. Because it's not like that Lust was like extreme value, right? We're just lusting a Pride and the back end of a pack, I think. Or the front end of a pack, sorry. So it's not really like you're gaining a ton from that Bloodlust. It's just you're gaining more than 0, which is what you would get if you didn't Bloodlust, right? Yeah, so we've got 60 seconds left on that Lust timer. It's going to be up almost exactly when we need it. And so this pack, what happens is based on our percentage, we can kill the Squad Leader and the Ether Diver, and then the other 3 have to die together to spawn the Pride. And so yeah, we commit all cooldowns here. We commit our Spear as well, our first Spear. It's probably possible to do this without the Spear commit, but the only problem is we only have 1 Kyrian. So we kind of need to commit the Spear before the second Spear, which is just after this boss. So it's not the worst Spear. There's probably a bigger pull we can do somewhere and commit the Spear, honestly. But yeah, at this point, we're trying to kill these together. We go a little slow on the Praetor because he jumped out, but that's okay. He really only does tank damage. It's a lot of tank damage. He does a decent amount of magic damage. You see, I'm going to get chunked here, but it's not the end of the world. It just means that I'm taking a ton more damage. And we do have the back end of Lust here. As you see, we lusted in the second half of that pack. Kind of clean it up and then go into the Pride. And this Pride goes off fairly clean. Yeah, that first Pride we did was like not super clean. We probably should have committed a little bit more to it. Probably defensive wise committed more to it. Just so we didn't have to deal with that death, but okay. The other Prides have been fairly clean in here. Yeah, so a neat trick you can do here with the Warrior is, I don't know if he gets it off this specific pull, but he can intervene out to actually take the bleed from your ranged. If you do it just before the Dark Stride and you obviously hit the correct target. I think he tried that. I think he was just a little slow, but that's a neat little trick you can do. And the Warrior is like by far the best target to have that bleed on, I think. In our group anyways, besides me. But I can't get it. We got a little unlucky here. We got a bunch of bleeds just on the Priest. Yeah, 3 for 3 on the Priest right now. I believe he Kyrian fouled the last one, but he's getting hard bullied this boss fight. Not much to talk here about tanking. Just as you can in the big phase. Actually, I guess I'll rewind a little bit. In the recharge phase, here you see our positioning, and if you look where I'm standing, like around there it is. Yeah, during recharge, you almost never need to move for orbs. There's a spot. There's the spot right there. We have to move for quaking. But normally you pretty much almost never need to move for the first set of orbs, and the second set you just need to move back and forth kind of. But it makes it very, very easy to dodge those orbs. You should never really be in the middle of this room during the recharge. I see a lot of range doing that. I definitely don't recommend it. Being near the boss, right where the tank is probably one of the safest spots. Yeah, Priest just getting hard bullied there. That's unfortunate. Able to get this guy off fairly cleanly though. We do eat a couple orbs. The orbs are almost one-shots, but not quite, so we would have had a few deaths if they were one-shots. Gotta keep an eye out for them, but jump up, and I think we do a double skip here. So we have a Priest, so we have a Priest, so we can do the Mind Soothe skip to get up the stairs, which I'll show you guys. And then after that, we shroud straight to boss, I believe, just to start the boss. So make sure we pick up that Kyrian Spear off to the side. This first guy you can skip without any CCs. You just need to. I think the mage does it here. Does he? Yeah, he does. Oh, I don't look at him though. I just stealth around it. Oh, the mage doesn't go, yeah. But you can just jump over that fire pit and not pull. But, you know, we have a history of screwing that up. So we wait for the Mind Soothe to come up and Mind Soothe. Oh yeah, our rogue could have sapped this guy while we were coming up so we didn't have to wait for another Mind Soothe. But there we go. Jump up there. And then we mount up and we shroud straight to boss. We go a little slow here. Yeah, so see, you don't actually need to mount up because we're able to make it through without the mount. That's just, it's a little fast for you mount. So we just get through here and start the boss. We don't even pull any trash. Just start the boss ASAP. And this is fortified weak. It's fairly high fortified. I'm going to take a ton of damage, but I'm still going to eat all of the orbs, I believe. Yeah, we trolled a little bit. Those should have been way tighter. Yeah, we should have hard stacked, but those are really, really not stacked at all. I remember now. This boss is just a weird one, honestly, especially after his first phase where he goes into the damage taken increase. After that, it's just a really, really weird fight. So note there, I'm running away alone because there's a lot of times he spell queues up that stomp and does it immediately after where you want to be stacked. And if anyone's on the tank, they just kind of get completely destroyed. So be careful. Yeah, I try and soak pretty much all of these. Oh, I missed one. That's what happened there. Yeah, that was awkward. And then I soak the rest of these. And just commits a couple defensive cooldowns because you don't really need a ton of defensive cooldowns for anything in this fight. Just like a minor thing for stomp is really all you need. And then, yeah, this fight just gets a little weird with his spells. Like, he does spells... He has huge gaps between his spell timers. And he like almost never... I've almost never seen this boss get to the second damage taken phase. He just like stops casting spells after the second set of puddles he drops in this phase. It's just weird. These puddles though we lined up much, much better. And for us, I believe we commit a decent amount of defensive cooldowns to those Purifying Blasts because they do deal a ton of damage. I think we commit Ice Block. Yeah, we've already committed Ice Block, and I think at this point we have like anytime the warrior gets, I think he Spell Reflects, and Rogue has Cloak as well. Yeah, he, like as you can see here, he just like kind of stops casting spells. It's a very weird boss fight. From here though, we do a little bit of shenanigans. So our mage there immediately goes up. Everyone else immediately comes to this pillar. Oh yeah, we have the dot still on the healer. Very fun. And we 4-man this Usurper Pull, LOS it, kill it here while the mage is flying up for like 30 seconds. So we kill these usurpers. At this point, the mage is currently up there tagging the spear boss and the damage taken increase boss. So if you're up on the platform looking on him, it's the left and the middle boss. And then he jumps off. He blinks down to not die instantly, and they snap down. Now, I think he only managed to get the spear guy this time. Yeah, only managed to get the spear guy. That's okay, though. Why did we do this? Well, one, you have a ton more room to work with, but that's not really the reason. The reason we did this, actually, is because it doesn't give the buffs to the other mini-bosses if you kill them down here. Now, ideally, we get the 2. We were trying to get the 2 here. Because it is possible to double snap down here. In which case, you would commit your second Kyrian Spear to this. Right? You would Kyrian Spear the double pack down here. And then the top guy would actually be fairly easy because all he would do is the dot instead of having all 3 abilities. This does make things a little easier though, because we have the spears no longer happening upstairs basically. Yeah, it's very, very consistent to get the spear guy. It's a little inconsistent to get the middle guy. We've had it sometimes, but I think more often than not we haven't had the middle guy also snap down. So it is doable. We need to do a little bit more testing on it, I think, to try and consistently get both of them to snap down. But at this point, I think we look at the time. We have 8 minutes, and we're like, yeah, we're just gonna 1 by 1 pull these guys instead of double pull. And so we just 1 by 1 pull. Yeah, ideally though, we do snap Lachesis down as well in that pull we just did. And it makes this a lot easier. But even this, like without spears, is pretty easy. Yeah, just finishing off Lachesis. I guess not much to say here. All he has is his damage amp. He doesn't really do much. And then we just have Klodos, who we commit Lust and Spear to. And again, he doesn't have spears. All he has is the damage amp from the previous guy and the dot now that he always had. And so we just pop everything to kill him because he's still spooky, even if he. I mean, the spooky thing is the combo of the dot and the damage amp, right? And so you really still want to pop CDs on him, and that's kind of why you want to try and get the double snap down to make sure this guy only has the dot and no damage amp, and he's just fairly easy to kill there. I mean, even there, like, it got pretty spooky. And we just do Davos. Davos has been fixed, obviously. I'm sure a lot of people are aware of that. You can no longer kind of cheese the spears to make it so she never jumps up. That was a big time save, but so you have to just fight her normally now. It's not a big deal. It's just this fight is very long. Davos has a lot of HP. Thing to note though, we are only at 98.25%. That is on purpose. I don't know if I mentioned this in the other videos, but pretty much, I mean, at this point especially, but pretty much any key above like an 18, it's always a time save to skip Pride. As unfortunate as that may be or sound, it's true, right? It's just a time save to skip Pride, and the easiest Pride to skip in pretty much every dungeon is the 100% Pride now after the Invispot adjustments. So anytime you can skip the 100% Pride, you always do. Yeah, not too much to talk about on this boss fight. I think we actually played decently cleanly. Ah yes, the angel, the double angel blocking your view there. Yeah, this boss fight is fairly straightforward. We have the Master Spell for the phase transition to get rid of that damage. And just not dying to run-throughs. But then after we end up killing this boss... Let's go here, yeah. So we end up killing Davos and jumping off the edge, as you'll see here. There's a spot, I believe you see it here, yeah, where I jump. And so they're all like falling down and going to LOS behind that pillar. And I'm jumping down here, charging to the mob, and running to LOS. Oh, he might have missed. That's okay though, res point's right there. And we LOS behind this pillar. Bring our Frost just to group them up, and we kill these guys. And that is it for the percent. Spawns at 100% prideful, and we're done. But yeah, that is it for Spires of Ascension. If you learned something, guys, remember, like and subscribe to support the channel. It really does help. If you ever want to catch me doing keys live, if you have any questions, I can do my best to answer things about Guardian Druids, tanking in general, dungeon routes, more. You can find me on my Twitch channel at Tactics. That is it for this video though. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.